Hello, and welcome back to the Talk No One Talks About. Again, I bring you all the uncomfortable, unpopular conversations you don't hear anywhere else. Today, we're talking about a very sensitive issue. And as you know, I am not doing this alone. I have with me a very professional, I would say, a very serious professional, someone who is very equipped to have this conversation, who has had like years of experience working in this space to have this conversation. Please introduce yourself and tell me what you do.
Okay. Good morning once again. My name is Uduak. I'm actually the executive director for Milestone Initiative for Human Rights and Empowerment. I program for women who use and inject drugs in Akwa Ibom State and every other vulnerable population. So I've had the privilege of implementing for drug users over a period of years. And when it has to do with issues around drug use to an extent, we have the ability to explain and possibly refer to where other services that isn't in our space to handle, to see how we could. And the aim of it is to see how to reduce drug use amongst queer persons, women who use drugs, and every other persons that have suddenly become vulnerable to drug use. So that's why I'm here to speak on certain topics around drug use. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. British, you're a very busy person. I love your shirt, by the way. What does it say?
I'm a global champion.
And you are. You are. So my first question today is, at what point do you think drug usage becomes abuse?
Oh, well, that's quite a nice one. So looking at the level where you measure drug abuse, where you measure that drug abuse, it becomes a cause for concern. It's where it takes a negative toll on the person. For instance, you're fully dependent on it. For instance, you become dependent on psychoactive drugs. You can't function without drugs. You need to sleep, you need drugs to put you to sleep. You need to eat, you need drugs to eat. You need to function. You have to use drugs to function. Without that, they can't get the best out of you. At that level, or some point where you take drugs and become nuisance to the society, at that level, it's now categorized as drug abuse. And that person, that queer person at that point needs attention. Yes, with most cases, not everybody would have to need rehabilitation, but the person will have to pass through a psychologist for therapeutic sessions to help reduce the drug use.
Okay. Yes. That's very eye-opening. So what do you think are challenges? Of course, people who fall in the drug using and abusing category have like various challenges that they face or that are peculiar to them, right? And I'm sure that in your work, you're not really working for like queer people, you work generally, right? For women who use drugs, yes. So what do you think are some challenges, or what do you think are the challenges that are particularly unique to queer women or queer people?
Okay. So just as we say, we have a general problem, we have a general concern in the society. If you are a drug person, or if you are a queer person, or if you are a key population, we have a general concern, which is stigma and discrimination. Stigma and discrimination has taken a very negative toll on the high level against this beautiful community. Because I call the community a very beautiful one, because we are very unique in our different ways. So for instance, when stigma and discrimination, they will have the self-stigma, we'll have the community stigma, we'll have the societal stigma, where you get to be stigmatized based on your drug use, based on your habit. Because people have different reasons why they indulge in drugs. Some actually comes in from the peer influence, where you actually started it through your peer group. Some might be because of family conflict, might be societal conflict, might be the way people see you and all that has led you into drug use. So we're looking at stigma and discrimination. We're looking at the inability to come out. As a result of stigma and discrimination, you can't come out. Who born you make come and say you be a queer person? The community will fall on you. And that has pushed people into drug use, because before you come out and you're able to speak about who you are. Somebody will look at it, they're like, see this one, no, I don't even understand. We now have lack of financial constraint. You are not working. You don't have anything to do, and you're super intelligent. We all know we're super intelligent, Abby. Are you know what?
Oh, I know. Very much
So when you don't find when you don't find something doing, you're not engaged. It pushes you into drug because you're like, that person that is working, what is so special about that person that I can't get? To an extent, I'm more intelligent than that person, but I can't find work. So what do? You start doing drugs to be cooling off your pressure. You're taking drugs to be cooling off your pressure, small. Before you know, it has started taking a negative toll on you.
So something you said just now prompted another question in my mind.
Okay.
This is very off the chart, but like you just mentioned like idleness, like unemployment, right? And how is it that drugs are expensive?
Okay, so you want to?
Yes, I really, because I have that question. Like you said, it's really true that unemployment it plays a major role, and half the time you see these people struggle. Why is it that even when you don't have money, the money just comes?
Are you sure you want to hear that? You hear that part? Okay,
I'm sure we do.
For instance, we have in the drug user community, we have sex workers.
Okay.
You get? There are persons that are not, no matter how you call sex work, exchanging a bottle of water for something, that's sex work.
Yes.
I come, you have sex, you give me water or transport, that's sex work. So coming to drug use is very simple. Somebody can sell sex to get drugs. So you don't need to have money to buy drugs. In as much as you're in the space, you don't need to have money to buy drugs. I could actually exchange drug for kindness. It might not be sex. I might be nice to you. And you're like, what can I give you in return? Okay, let me buy you drugs. Oh, that shocked you.
Wow.
So there are different, you could actually do drugs without having money. I could wake up and decide to sell my phone to buy drugs. That's why you hardly find, except is an high-class drug user having a phone. Except the person is an high-class drug user having a phone. You always have what to give out.
Yeah.
You're not able to get drugs.
Give
So
up all their valuable properties and stuff.
as simple as that.
So can we discuss the intersectionality between drug use, mental health issues, and experiences of trauma within the queer community?
Okay. So like I earlier said, there's something about mental health and trauma. So mental health, we all know that has to do with when your mind is unstable, when you're not able to fix it right. And they're like, some persons will see it as madness. They'll say, this one don't dey mad though. Now, like, we have so many things in our mind that will make us unstable because of how this. Okay, for instance, I want to by all means now be a man. I want to dress to be a man. And everybody everywhere is disturbing me. You're a woman, wear clothes like a woman now, wear skirt, do this. And I need to come out from the house. I have all male outfits in the house. I need to do drugs to be able to wear my thing and come outside. I need to come outside. Waiting consign me. I'll wear it and come outside. Coming out, there's something about drugs. When you take it, they see anybody. Now only you they see, they go where they go. I didn't even understand. So at that level, you see where people will have, where trauma, where you're like, God, I want to go. I don't know how to do it. What would the society say? What would people say? What would my family say? What would they say? I don't know if you've heard of scenarios where families are like, I did not born this child like this now. And all those things has a negative toll on the child. It has a negative toll on you as a queer person. So at that level, you're not able, if you don't have a psychologist by your side, you don't have somebody that can speak sense to you, you now see where the trauma will now push the person to depression. The person will now be depressed. So at that level, it's only through a psychologist, somebody speaking to a psychologist, or having a peer group, a friends of like minds. Like I love the energy happening in the country currently. We now have these movements of queer persons. Where it's not easy for you to break it again, not like before that they were doing anyhow. It's not easy to break through now. Because everybody has this enlightenment, this understanding of who we are. Except for the fact that it can't be measured through drug use. Because some persons are still dependent on drugs to be able to sell whatever knowledge they have. For instance, you live in a community, in an environment where the persons are not quite friendly. You see some persons saying their ally is down. They
Yeah.
deceive themselves. Most of them are not allies because they're the ones putting us out.
Yeah.
You come here and say you're an ally. An ally will always look out for the safety of a queer person.
Yeah.
Not so.
Yes.
So at that level, you see people, how do I mix up? You do drugs. Okay, and they experiment different forms of drugs. You're like, this one, no homie, make I try this one. And before you know, you are tapping different type of drugs. You are doing different combination of drug. We call it polydrug use. You mix. Before you know, the thing don't knock you off. Of which, if they were able to work on your mind, you won't. If you had a first-hand psychologist. That is why we're advocating to have a mental health clinic. If we can have a mental health clinic, we'll do so well for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what happens in a mental health clinic? You can come in there, talk amazibi. You have the psychologist there to help you measure. You have other things. You have, like I saw something Yipu did yesterday or so, the paint and sip. That helps bring out a very beautiful picture in the inside. There are mental pictures you don't know how to bring out. But through images like that, you can paint it.
Yeah.
And also, that also helps in harm reduction. Also helps in harm reduction. Because when we're talking about drug use, my darling, it's not a story for one day. So looking at another angle of it is self-medication. So for instance, you have mild symptoms of maybe whatever. And because of the fact that I don't know if you've ever experienced stopping by a pharmacy to get medication or a clinic. And they're like looking at you, they ask you certain questions, you are answering, and you're like wondering, what are they looking at? Probably because of the way you came out, the whole stereotyping thing. And you're like, you feel very uncomfortable. You're like, why are you looking at me in that manner? They're like, no, nothing. And immediately you moved and turned. Everybody is like, who could that be? Who could that be? So scenarios like that could actually make a queer person not go out to get help. And we start indulging in self-medication, self-care, which will actually take a negative toll, a major negative toll on your health. And you're like, how do you really, sometimes there's this level of pain you have, and they'll tell you, take drugs, hard drugs will help you. And you take it sincerely to help. But the question is, has it solved the problem? No. You know, solver. But it only minimized the pain at that point. And you're like feeling very normal, but you're not normal. So looking at looking at one of the reasons that cause all this problem is lack of proper health awareness for healthcare service delivery. Abi? Should be called a healthcare service delivery guys, Abi? The person delivering these services. Lack of awareness has also contributed to the fact of having many queer persons indulge in drug use. And prioritizing PMVs. These are party medicine vendors. They prioritize because the PMVs are like champions, community champions now. They see everything, keep everything, they are the first-hand persons these queer persons actually run to because their secrets are safe with them. And they are quacks. They are not professionals. But they feel comfortable going there because they know go cast them compared to coming out to access healthcare service.
So this is another question off the chart. Are there organizations or people who have hands-on trainings for people who want to volunteer in spaces like this, right? Personally. So I've had I think 2 years volunteering in mental health, right? And I want to know, you just said, people go and they are vulnerable to people who they should not be vulnerable to, or people who are not equipped, right?
The knowledge.
And trained and knowledgeable to deal with these issues, right? So is there kind of a first aid system, right? It takes a lot, of course, to get the training that you have, right? And there are also a lot of drug users. A lot of people are going to come up with small spaces, right? Are there communities that people can say, okay, you have this issue, let me refer you to this community? Or are there communities that train people to handle issues like this faster or more effectively?
If I'm aware, we have a KP-friendly OSS where community members get to stop by and get services. That Heartland Alliance offers the free services for queer persons, key population, whoever you are, they have that free service and friendly services. And I think they're also having, there's, sometimes ago, there was a training package for healthcare providers in the state. So to an extent now, I think most healthcare facilities are friendly, but rich. It's more like training the yoga. What happens to those?
So the person at the grassroots, the person who directly interacts with the users.
I don't even understand. For instance, we'll have an advocacy visit, have meetings with NDLA, police and all that, all the security agencies. You are training you are interacting with the bosses. You are having conversations around favoring policies, amendments of raids and all that with them. What happens to the ones at the grassroots? These are the ones at the grassroots that are actually carrying out these things. And they are like, this message was sent, but was not properly disseminated to the grassroots.
Yeah.
So
it did not trickle down.
It still brings us back to where we are.
Okay. So I want to ask you what you would say are some culturally competent approaches or interventions that address the specific needs of queer people struggling with drug use and addiction.
So, firstly, the interventions I could say is one would have to do with continuous advocacy, firstly. Then see how we could have a facility, how would we say, a community-friendly facility, peculiar safe space to the LBQ persons. For instance, I'm advocating for a safe space for drug users in the state. That is, there's no safe space anywhere you could have them have such service for without being stigmatized and being discriminated. And when you're looking at passing a drug user through rehab, the rehab must have a recreational center, must have an MHPSS person, must have a doctor, must have a nurse. We don't have anything of such that could help rehabilitate someone that has actually gotten it lost to drug use. So it's also, apart from creating demands on doing continuous sensitization and awareness on the community understanding that these categories of persons are human beings like you, even more intelligent. I'll tell them, see, we are more intelligent than you people. It's only that we people see drug use as a problem. We are more intelligent than drug. And most cases it's because the opportunity is not there. That is where it now looks as if it is the drug use that is the problem. So if we have a friendly, safe space, have a peer group, you understand? Establish a learning group, a peer group of people with like minds. You will not carry me and go and put with
sober people.
Now, what are we going to be doing there now? You have to put me in a circle of fellow drug users. And in
like
that
an AA thing.
And in that circle, we'll have to be speaking on harm reduction. The core focus of there is harm reduction. And you know one thing about peer group helps you identify who you are. You might be here and have low self-esteem, have a complex problem. But when we're in that group and everybody's relating, we are being educated on how to reduce drugs. Because when you reduce drug, your confidence comes back in full dose. Because sometimes this negative effect of this drug use, it kills your self-esteem. It kills it, because when you are coming out to sit in the midst of persons that are not doing drugs, you are like, my I say my own get that. Be me a day like this. You're looking so unstable and unfocused. So when we find ourselves in that group, in that gathering, you are able to help revive what must have gotten lost. What are the measures? What quantity of drug do I use? Do I know the negative effect? How can you help me reduce it? It is in that peer group, that study group, where you now have to go through sessions. It's not like a one-off thing. It's a session where you have more like you can have up to 10 sessions. Because without somebody passing through that length of session, you can't say that person has attained harm reduction. No. Where the person is from that group, that person will start reducing his or her level of drug use.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have this very, dare I say, personal question. Right? You've spoken about community and peer groups, right?
Yes.
Now, a lot of people are very unaware of these communities and peer groups. But I want to know particularly, right, what peer groups that are not really like-minded, like the way we are as communities, right? We have like small spaces, cluster communities, smaller communities, and all of that. How do people in these communities manage a colleague or one of them, let's say a chosen family or whatever, right? A member of that space, a member of their community, being a heavy drug user or drug abuser, not even user, I'm talking abuser, right? So especially when it becomes like detrimental, right? It seems like this person is self-destructive because when they're sober, you have conversations, or when they're even in the process of using, like you have conversations. Oh, can you like tone it down a bit? Like, because out of care, out of concern, not even out of judgment. Like, oh, I know that this thing gets you to this point where you're like all messy and have to be at the vulnerability of people and everyone else. And like it or not, everyone has like their own stuff they're dealing with, and life is really literally hard on everyone else, right? So sometimes it's a burden, or I won't say a burden. Sometimes it's like work. I want to know how people can navigate it, how people who care or who have like friends and family, right, that are heavy drug abusers, right? How these communities, even though they have like no experience with drug abuse or drug usage, right? I feel like we all have experience with drug use, not abuse.
Okay.
Yeah, but like how can these communities step up? How can these communities step up? Because I feel like, to my understanding, it takes like the work has to first come from the communities you feel safer in, right? Yes, this place where these people feel safe, this place where they feel comfortable first, because it takes a while, even as a drug user, even going to meet like other drug users, you don't just bond simply for the fact that we use drugs together, right? Yes. So these spaces where they are already comfortable, these spaces where they are already vulnerable, how can these people step in?
So the first thing we'll have to put into consideration is understanding that before a queer person finds love, finds solace in drug abuse, in enjoying drug, is that we'll have to consider love. First thing, most of them lack love. Most of them lack love. Because even if you are going to measure it to peer group, it still boils down to love. It still boils down to the inability to take decision. So looking at that of the peer groups, so that's something we do. We'll have two types of peer groups, like a cohort.
Yeah.
We'll have the opioid users and we'll have the injecting drug users.
So what drugs fall under opioids and then injecting?
Any drugs that are not injectable.
They are opioids.
They're
So what
opioid.
about people who like do all of it? Like I'm talking smoking,
Okay, those smoking,
sniffing, all of the injecting.
Okay,
drinking.
yes. At that level, the person will have to. That's a bit complicated. Okay, that's a bit complicating, because why I said it's a bit confusing, because when we divide them into, there are persons that inject and don't use, but there are persons that use and inject at the same time. After injecting, they will now step it down with either that of the sniffing or of the smoking or whatever, or drinking, or however they mix it. You get. At that level, we put the person in the opioid group.
Okay.
Because the injectable group is strictly for those who inject. Because why they don't mix them in the cohort is so that the person that uses opioid will not one day wake up and start injecting. Because the aim of harm reduction is to reduce and not to increase.
Not to increase it.
The aim is to reduce and not to increase. So once this person that doesn't inject finds herself or himself in the injecting group, the person will start indulging in that act. You go try them now. Everything inside life now to try see where you want land.
True.
You'll try it. So at that level, all the person needs is love and care. You will see if you've opportunity. Okay, good enough. You said you've done psychology or something.
Yeah, volunteering
for mental health. Good enough. If you see when clients come for their therapeutic session, whoever brought them, the parent that brought them, will encourage you to show them love. They will tell you, show them love. Put them in spaces where people are always around. They will tell you, don't encourage them to stay alone. Because you don't know what runs through the mind of the person when the person is sitting alone. And in most cases, it ends as suicidal attempts. Because there's a level of drug use you take. The thing they like, see, one day, you don't know whether you go survive, you know go survive. How they do me like this? Now, maybe for kukuma die. And we've had issues of overdose.
Yeah.
We've had issues of people taking what they shouldn't take, and the thing don't pass out. So looking at the way it is, psychology is key.
Yeah.
Psychology is key in helping rehabilitate or reducing the damage drug use is doing to our people. Psychology is key. Economic empowerment is key. Socioeconomic empowerment skill is key. Because if you want to look at it, when they say love, they'll ask you again, what does the person do? Is the person going to school? Is the person working? They will ask you certain questions around the persons that if you are not close, you might not have those informations. And those are the things that would also help to reduce the person. And even taking the person to a safe space is not enough. A rehabilitation center. It has a limit at which it will work. And there's this other part you also have to contribute to. The person himself or herself. There's something about self-stigma.
Yeah.
That's why you have to work on it. Is this as a result of the person stigmatizing his or herself? Is it like, I am not enough? There's this word I like telling people, I am enough. I am enough for myself, whether you like it or not.
What happens, sorry to have cut you short. What happens in spaces that are very affirming, right? What happens in spaces that are very affirming? Let's have an example of queer affirming spaces that are not necessarily very anti. Do you understand? Like where you have conversations and you even have fellow drug users, right? And everyone is, let's say, drinking like a hangout or something. And then what happens in spaces like that where there's love, there's reassurance, there's support, and still the problem persists in like ways that now are very excessive? What happens? I want to know, right, for our viewers out there, for people who are watching, right? Because I know that everyone has like people in their spaces and we have like a variety of these people. I want to know what people can do, not only in the state, like outside, right? I want to know if there are helplines, I care for someone, but I see how self-damaging their use for drug is, right? To the point where they put themselves in harm's way. And there's so far love can go, especially love that is not properly informed, right? So people can get exhausted. People can now say, oh, I'm tired. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to step in. Is there like, what would you say as a professional? What would you say are like 3 or 4 key steps to handle situations like that, where you're not necessarily giving up on the person, right? But you know that your community is not even equipped to handle it because you have tried with your assurance, you have tried with your accepting, the love is there. Even the like using drugs and drinking and smoking occasionally together is there, but you find yourself that there's a particular case or scenario that's like really
that never
extremist,
goes.
yes, that just never goes, and this person puts themselves, or like when it happens, when you go out and there's this issue of like there's just extreme side effects of drug usage. I'm talking throwing up and all the unable to sit down, just helpless situations.
So if I understand you very well, everybody in life has a strong will, has a will. Going through or coming from my angle of experience, everybody that goes into drugs has a reason the person goes into drugs. You can't just wake up and start like, this water is, I'll just wake up and be drinking this water for no reason. I have a reason, I test for water. Yes. In most cases, these persons have something they've never told anybody. Like something that is bothering them so deep. Most of those things are the things that push people into depression, are the things that push people into suicidal attempts, that the person hasn't told anybody. And for the person to be able to manage his or herself, the person does drugs. And the person doesn't understand the level of drugs the person could take, or the level of drug his or her system
can handle.
So that is why, if you see why I'm drawing emphasis to a mental health person, a mental health person has a way of probing you and making you tell them something you have vowed never to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And at that level, once you are able to break loose from that thing that is bothering you, you see this level of relief. And it also helps. That's why you can't see any body programming for harm reduction without having this handshake of mental health and psychosocial support, because you cannot get to where you are going to without a mental health person. Everybody has something bothering the person, but what matters is who is able to get that information out of you. So, in the interim, while trying to see how it could be reduced, is to continue showing that person the love.
Creating space for them to be vulnerable.
Continue managing the person. And all you need to do is just, all the person needs to do is to see how the person can extend care. Like, let's say the person was in a circle of 2, try to say, I need, and not just anyhow person that will contribute to making the person highly more vulnerable, but bringing in people. You know, there's some persons that love chatting. There's some persons that love gisting, movies. Try and see things that could help this person be more coordinated and apply.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I did not say earlier, but that was a very personal example, right? Something that, and I know that I'm just going to say that we need to put in more work. And even though it seems like we're already doing all the things that you've suggested and mentioned, we just have to keep doing and hope for the best. So there are no organizations or people we can reach out to in cases like that?
I know of NDLA.
So like NDLA has like...
It has a rehabilitation.
So when you go there, they don't arrest you for the drugs?
No.
So when they arrest people, do they take them to the rehabilitation?
They have a rehabilitation, yes. They have both people can come from the outside, apart from those they arrest. You have to, your guardian or whoever is, how would I put it? I have the cases of responsible for you would have to sign you in, because there are certain charges that will have to be paid for your feeding and all that. Okay. But they have a very beautiful rehabilitation center for drug users.
That's nice. But like in the very, I wouldn't say real world, in the very uninformed average Nigerian world, when they arrest you, they take money from you and then they let you go.
What I know NDLA does is that they are trying to crop drug users, drug dealers, not users.
Okay, not users.
Their hunt is for dealers. Okay. Because if there is no drug in the community, me I no go buy, you no go buy. Shebi, you not buy now. Where will you sit to buy?
Yeah, even if there is.
Yes. Because the more drug comes in, the more damage it does on the youth. Okay. The more damage it does. So if you wake up, you see drugs, you will find way to do another thing now. So NDL is going out for dealers and not users.
Okay. So we have come to the end of this session, and it's been very deep. It's been very deep, and like you said earlier, the drug conversation is something that cannot end in one day. I want to ask you one last question. I'm sorry. What role can these support networks, community organizations, and advocacy efforts play in addressing the addiction within the queer community? Like, just however briefly you can put that out.
So, first thing, a peer group networks would do is that they also help to an extent in disseminating, creating demands on the negative impact of drugs. So it's more like bringing a group of persons together like champions. Bringing a group of persons together like champions to educate them on the need to disseminate messages on the drug use level in the country. Painting the negative effect will make, just like you have on cigarettes. Yeah. You've seen it written behind there. Smokers are liable to die young. No be say you know see. The message is there. But it's for you to understand that what you are taking has a negative toll on your health. Yeah. So when we are doing, and also having groups like that will also help in opening up. Will also help in queer persons coming up, opening up, like saying things the way they are, because they are more comfortable. It builds confidence. Yeah. It builds confidence. It gives you this boldness that you belong somewhere, there is love somewhere.
Sense of acceptance.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We hope to have this chat again sometime soon. Yeah, and thank you so much for your time. This has been, I hope it has been as educating and as eye-opening for you as it has been for me, because it has. I mean, she came here with the notes and I've been taking mental notes. So thank you so much. Please do like, share, and subscribe, especially to people you know that would need this session, right? We all have like people who are more vulnerable to drug use, right? Please share within yourselves and within the community. And do not forget to drop comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what tell us what your experiences are with drug use. This is a safe space. This is we are putting in all the work to make sure that it's a safe space, and we really want to hear from you. So tell us that, and tell us something else you'd like us to talk about. Till next time. Bye.